Yo guys, what's going on? I got a kind of a special discussion video for you guys today. I've been wanting to do a video like this for quite a while, but I just never knew how to go about it. But I think I just want to kind of talk about mulligans in the Digimon TCG and just in card games in general. So, well, what exactly is a mulligan? For those of you who don't know, a mulligan refers to basically like a system where once you draw your opening hand in a card game, you look at your hand and then you decide whether or not you want to keep it, and then you either, like for a full mulligan, you would stick your whole hand back in and redraw your hand, or for a partial mulligan, you would choose the specific cards you don't want, put them back, and like draw the same amount or whatever. So that's basically what it is, and a lot of people have been kind of calling for a mulligan, or I know there are a lot of people who would like a mulligan in the Digimon TCG because it's a game where you have to build your deck around certain levels of Digimon, and if you don't open the correct levels, take this purple deck here, for example, where you're trying to basically build up like all the way from like levels 2 to 7, and if you don't open your level 3s, or maybe if you open too many 3s but like no 4s or anything, that can be really detrimental to your strategy. And there have been people who have been wanting a mulligan system because if you don't open level 3s, you're kind of like shit out of luck. Okay, now, so I kind of do want to share my opinions on whether or not I think the Digimon TCG needs a mulligan, but basically, let's first talk about like mulligans in other card games. Okay, so as far as like the other big card games go, right? Pokemon has a mulligan, Magic the Gathering has a mulligan, Yu-Gi-Oh does not have a mulligan. Okay, so let's just take a look at like the basic structure of these games to see why they actually have mulligans. Okay, so Magic the Gathering, for example. Now keep in mind, disclaimer, my knowledge of Magic is very limited. All right, however, Magic is a game, for those of you who don't know, where it relies on this thing called your mana system. So think of it like memory in Digimon, where you need a certain amount of mana to like do things, to activate cards. Everything has a cost associated with it. Okay, now the way you get mana is not inherent to the game's function, kind of like how it is in Digimon, but it's ingrained in these cards called lands. Okay, so basically, in order to activate anything in Magic, you have to have a land to pay the cost of that card, land or lands or whatever. Okay, now, Magic has a mulligan system because if you don't open any lands, you are literally unable to play the game. You cannot activate anything. You can't do anything for your turn because everything has a cost associated with it. So you'll basically just have to pass turn, hope until you draw a land. But that's why it has a mulligan system, because you desperately need a land to do anything in the game. Is a vital part of every strategy, and therefore in Magic, I believe they have partial mulligan, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe in Magic you get to like choose the number of cards you put back, and then like you redraw your hand -1 or something. So there's like a downside to mulliganing, but you can do that as many times as you want, basically to guarantee yourself that at the end of the day you'll open a land and you can still play the game. Okay, so that's kind of the idea there. Now, for Pokemon, for example, so Pokemon trading card game, it's a similar situation in the sense that not having a mulligan would make it to where there are situations where you literally cannot play the game and your opponent like either straight up wins, or like you just have to pass straight up. Okay, so in Pokemon, you need these things called basic Pokemon. At the start of your turn, I have the like rule book pulled up here. Okay, so basically at the start of the game, you like choose your basic Pokemon from your hand and you like put them onto the field, and then you start the game from there. If you didn't have any basic Pokemon, like you literally are unable to play the game because you need to have an active Pokemon. You need to have something like in play in order to start the game. And if you didn't, well, your opponent would just win because they win once all of your Pokemon are gone from the field and from the bench. Okay, so it's similar to Magic in the sense that you need one specific physical card type to be able to start the game, to be able to do things and like play the game. And that's why a mulligan is extremely important in these games, because you need a certain card type that is in your deck that you are not like. Obviously, there are times when you won't draw those because unless like every single card in your deck is a land or every single card in your deck is a basic Pokemon, you're not going to be guaranteed to drawing those cards. Okay, so that's why that's why I think mulligans are appropriate in those two games because of those reasons. Okay, now moving on to another one of the very big games, another one of the big three that is notorious because it doesn't have a mulligan. We got Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game that does not have a mana system. It doesn't have a mana system, no memory gauge. There's no costs associated with cards in the sense that you can only activate a limited amount of cards per turn. Okay, there are costs associated with the cards. For example, like this Pot of Desires here, where the cost of this card is you remove from play, like you take the top 10 cards of your deck and like throw them away basically, and then you get to draw 2 cards. Okay, that's the cost associated with. There isn't a memory cost associated with this card. You don't have to tap 3 lands to activate this card. You can just do it whenever you want, provided you haven't activated another one that turn, right? So there are costs in the sense that like you have to meet certain conditions in Yu-Gi-Oh! But like cards like, you know, Monster Reborn or Foolish Burial, where you just do the thing that they tell you to do without having to do it. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is notorious for having extremely explosive turns where you can activate dozens of cards in a single turn, summon dozens of monsters in a single turn, because there's not really a resource system like the other games have, like energy or mana or memory or anything like that. Okay, so the reason why Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have a mulligan is because of the fact that there isn't a specific card type you have to have in your starting hand in order to be able to play the game. Would mulligans in Yu-Gi-Oh! Be nice? Sure, a lot of people have talked about it. There are some times when you can open unplayable. Take this virtual world deck, for example. If I open like 3 trap cards like a Nibiru and an Ash Blossom, I'm pretty much unable to play. I can maybe set a card and pass, but basically I have to pass the turn over. However, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the turns can be so one-sided where if you pass the game, you like essentially just lose. Like if you pass the turn, you essentially just lose the game. Okay. However, you don't have to open a specific card type. And then there are also so many cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That provide searchability that let you tutor out other combo pieces from your deck. Cards like, Pot of Desires lets you draw 2 cards. Cards like Emergency Teleport lets you just summon something straight for your deck. Digimon does not have any of those sorts of cards. There's actually like no searching in Digimon, period, right? If we had any of these types of cards, it'd be kind of crazy. Okay, but basically my point is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't need a mulligan because you're not reliant on a single card type and you have other cards that provide like value for you. Okay, now let's fast forward to Digimon. Okay, so Digimon, similar to Yu-Gi-Oh!, you don't need a specific card type in order to in order to start your turn. You're not going to lose the game straight up if you don't open a level 3. And even comparing it to Yu-Gi-Oh!, even like the better thing about Digimon is that in Yu-Gi-Oh!, like I said, the turns can be one-sided. So if you open unplayable and you pass, you're basically dead. But in Digimon, there have been times where if you pass the turn, your opponent goes to 3 automatically. If you don't open a rookie, you hard play like a level 5 or level 4 or level 5 or something, and then you give your opponent a ton of memory. And even then, in Digimon, it takes a couple of turns to be able to do anything. Cards have summoning sickness. You have to wait until your Digimon come out of the breeding area, things like that. And you can't just tutor out 10 Digimon from your deck in a single turn, to where even if you quote-unquote break open like unplayable quote-unquote, I just have to pass my turn by summoning a Skull Meramon. My opponent starts with 5 memory and then they can go off. But even then, it's not unheard of for players to come back from that sort of thing just because they didn't open a level 3. Okay. And in addition to that, I also want to argue that Digimon is a game that has a lot of draw power, a lot of cards that do various things. So if you feel like you are bricking constantly during your testing process of a deck, there are cards that can help remedy that. Okay, there are many draw cards in Digimon, like lots of ones that people don't even use. I mean, you have stuff like Pulsemon, you have Gabumon, you have stuff like Boring Storm, Tapermon, you have Eden's Javelin, Heir of the Dragons, all these cards that basically like help you fix your hand, consistency cards that help you draw cards. And the best thing about it is that, like I said, Digimon is not a one-turn game. Maybe unless you're playing against Rookie Rush, but that's a whole nother video topic. But basically, it's not a one-turn game. There are times where you can open bad and still come back from it. Maybe you drew into the Digimon you need. Maybe you finally drew into your memory boost cards. We're getting those in the Digimon TCG in set 6, or for us American players, that'll be a little bit longer from now. But anyway, so there are cards that help you remedy that. And if I really wanted to guarantee myself the ability to open a level 3, I can just play more, and without completely ruining the synergy of my deck. I can just maybe take out a couple option cards and play like 2 more copies of Gazimon. I'm at like 16 rookies now, so the chances of me not opening a rookie are very low. Let's go ahead and roll here. So you can see my hand. By the way, shout out to Digimon card.dev. You guys should check this website out. It's super cool. But you can basically just check your hands, and you can see pretty much every hand I'm opening a level 3. And then even this one where I open quote unquote unplayable, right, I'll probably have to just summon like a level 5 and pass here. It's not the end of the world, because I can play stuff like Skull Marimon, who, in the situation where you do break, he's only a 5 play cost. So you can do something like that without breaking the bank, and the next turn I can Digivolve into something like Plutomon, draw 2 cards, hopefully fix my hand from there. But like I said, there are just many ways to remedy the quote-unquote breaking situation, many ways you can build your deck in order to mitigate the fact that opening or not opening a level 3 is like terrible in this game. Okay, so anyway, so that kind of concludes my points on why I think the Digimon TCG does not need a mulligan. Me personally, I really don't think there is a necessity for one. I think after playing 5 formats, or like we're 5 booster sets in, and the meta has been good, and there are plenty of decks that can function with or without level 3s. You got decks like Rookie Rush that play basically all level 3s, and you got cards. Then you've got decks like Security Control that basically play no level 3. So I think the ceiling for deck building, like the ways you can be creative in this game, are very unique to Digimon, and not a lot of other card games can say that. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you can't really play cards outside your archetype, aside from like certain staples, but you can't just throw in whatever consistency cards or whatever draw cards or whatever monsters you want in a certain deck. But in Digimon, you kind of can, and a lot of times it does work. But anyways, guys, that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm sure there will be tons of people who disagree with me. I know even a couple of my friends personally would like mulligans in this game, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think the Digimon trading card game needs a mulligan system? If you would want a mulligan system in the game, would you want a partial mulligan where you choose the cards, like 1 or 2 cards, you put them back, draw the same amount, or would you want a full mulligan system where you just get rid of your hand, draw a whole new hand? And would you want there to be a downside to mulliganing, similar to Magic where you draw 1 less card, or in Pokemon where your opponent draws an extra card, something like that? Let me know, please let me know down in the comments. I'm curious to see your guys' thoughts. Let's have a nice civil discussion down in the comments. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.